Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming back again for another Wednesday afternoon live stream. Hope you're having an excellent week so far. I know I am. I got it pretty good over here. We're, always shuffling something around over here. But if you haven't done so already, be sure to go ahead and click on that link in the description to join us here on the call, and then you can chime in, make a ruckus, express your many opinions, maybe ask a question, maybe answer a question. Who knows? Maybe you can teach us something. I know I'm an old dog, but I can still learn some new tricks. Learning new tricks all the time. So anyway, who has something, a question or a comment or a bit of advice, anything like that?
Got kind of a not a shower question, but I figure some guys here might have an opinion. We've been sanding mirrors for a lot of years, and glass dust drives me crazy. Does anybody have that does mirrors and polishes, hand polishes in house, a way to address glass dust that works? I've looked at buying sanders that have, dust collectors built into them. They work okay. My guys don't love them because they can't see the glass as well with that cover, over the sander. So I was just wondering, it's not a key shower question, but something that everything's always covered in glass dust in our building on top of just regular dust because of where we're located. So anybody got any really good ways to address that?
I was a good way to address it, Billy, but I share the same frustration. We do a decent number of mirrors and we suffer the same thing. And I think it's led to, especially when you're drilling holes in mirrors and whatnot too, scratches. And I'd love to hear if anybody's got any gems of wisdom.
You know what? I got a guy. Go ahead. Go ahead. You first.
I was taught to wet sand by hand, which is what I do in the shop because the dust is it's crazy. And even with the dust bag, the collector, it never, I feel like not much of that dust ever really makes it into the bag.
I think it goes into the bag and then comes back out.
Comes right back out. I mean, it's a fine dust, but that's how I was taught. I was taught to wet sand. So I'll put some paper towels on top of the mirror and get a little bucket of water with a sponge, and I'll hold my sponge right at the top of the belt. So it's constantly getting water wherever my belt is. It's a little bit of a mess, at once all said and done. But I mean, you could always take like mirror safety backing and you could back the whole surface of the mirror. So all that mess is collected on top of the safety backing, and then you could just peel it up as opposed to just wiping off the mirror. I mean, I don't know. That's what I do. It keeps the dust down. It can get messy. The floor can get pretty wet. If you have rubber mats, like some of those ones they have in restaurants where they have the holes in them for like the liquid to go through. So at least you're not kind of standing in a puddle of water. But that's my 2 cents. I don't know if it's worth 2 cents, but that's it.
Do you know some of these baby boomers are probably laughing at us right now talking about this?
Yeah, right.
Deal with it.
What's a hand sander?
I have a guy that's 70 years old, man. All he does is shop work and sands all day. I go, man, if I live up to 70 years old and still sanding, hey, man.
Stuff's good for you, man. Make you live a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
your lungs filled with that stuff, and it's like you're unstoppable.
It is what it is. I mean, it's like I have no solution for that one. I mean, you get an upright sander, a wet sander, and use that. I have one of those.
But a full size mirror, man. There's just no way.
There is no way. I mean,
we used to do that.
Really?
Yeah, we used to
mirror?
polish sheets on an upright 4-inch. Two guys, and one guy would kind of control the polish at the front of the belt, and the other guy would kind of leapfrog from side to side to help hold the weight. It
Wow.
was it was pretty intense. It was crazy with some big sheets of glass. It got
They have
you had to be on your game for sure. But that was how I learned. That was how I was taught. I mean, there was just two of us in the shop, it was my uncle and I, and it was crazy, but we did it.
Wow.
Yeah, our old Samaka has the rollers on it. You just get it and just roll it. But big sheets, yeah, that's kind of sketchy. But yeah, I was just taught hey, it is what it is, man. I mean, you're gonna. Yeah, I was taught old school, so it's kind of like I have no solution for that. But
No, I can remember way back, guys doing that, like even like using a spray bottle. Like had one guy with a spray bottle just spraying it down, and keeping it wet, the other guy polishing it. I mean, water is a good solution. I even remember guys using WD-40 to get like that nice kind of a machine polished kind of looking edge. So if you use a little oil, WD-40 or something like that, you can actually get kind of that nice, what I'm talking about, factory looking edge.
They have a can of spray oil for sanding that we use all the time. We spray our belts, and that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Then we have a double upright, stand up sander that we used when I first started with my dad. We'd have one with a 120 with the other with a 400 on it, and we'd flat polish shells, mirrors all the time on that thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I started out, I mean, everything was hand polished, really. I mean, there very few places had. I think there was like one shop in town that had some polishing machines, and everybody would just like bring them their mirrors to get them polished if they needed to be polished, machine polished. But otherwise, it was like, everybody was doing it by hand.
So the guy that works for me, he told me they used to use a rock and freaking something else, and that's how they used to polish.
Yeah,
a
rock and a little spit or something.
Yeah,
spit on the rock. And
they would tell me that's what they had. Like, I'm like, damn.
couple of sticks, rub them together really fast.
I guess.
Like the Flintstones,
No, they had like this rock, and it was rough, and they would use that to get the sharpness off the glass. I mean, I don't know how good it was.
No, that's actually a real deal. There's actually, it used to be a tool. How many of you guys remember that? It was like an aluminum little box with two little
stones in them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And it would
yeah.
I think I still have one of those.
The edge of the glass, knock the sharp edge off.
Yeah, I still have one of those.
Yeah,
I started using the Devil 20 years ago.
Man, man.
Hey, Billy, are you hand polishing all your mirrors in house? Like even big stuff, or is it just pretty much the little stuff?
We're seaming everything, obviously, but we do polish some exposed edge stuff that's decent size, depending on where it's going.
Okay.
You usually
stuff you order out
down and oil it.
Hey, Chris, here's your.
Oh, there it is. What do you call that thing, Tim?
There it is.
I don't know.
Show it
Why
again.
am I not surprised that Tim just pulled that off the shelf?
Bam.
Yeah, there you go.
Got it at arm's
Got two
length, ready
stones
to
inside,
go.
and you can just do a quick seam on the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep you from
Tim
getting
seemed to mirror that yesterday. He seemed it yesterday, 100%.
He's probably only 40 years old,
All right. Almost as old as you, huh?
Yeah.
So that tool likely is older than me. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We oil. I mean, we'll oil the edges and do that kind of thing. It's just, when my guy's running through. I mean, we tried to back off the mirrors, and we've been ordering case after case. With tying them in with shower jobs. It seems like we're doing more mirror now than we were 5 years ago.
You're doing more than when you were trying to, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
should-
And I
you should
love
see-
putting mirror with showers. It's great because you make good margins on it. We don't do mirrors by themselves very often unless it's like a workout facility or a home gym. But tying them in with showers, we love doing that. So my shop guy that does our retail as well, does our mirrors. And I'm just trying to clean up his space, just in general. And I'm always playing with ideas on how to do that. But he's by himself. We don't have another person that's regularly in that space to work with him. And he's using like a Makita sander. He's not using a belt sander. And that's what he's comfortable with. We've played with different sanders and that's what he likes. So
Like a
he does a
disc
good job.
sander, you mean?
Yeah, disc sander.
Yeah, see, I like that better too
Yeah.
myself.
Dude, I would like your guy to come. He doesn't want to come work for me. He seems like my kind of type of dude, man. I bet he's just like the guy that works for me, man, in the back. He's same way.
This dude is 40 years old. He's 41. He's pretty young for a shop guy.
Mhm.
I'm
He
40
does
years. I'm
really
40
good
years
work.
old. So forget. Yeah, I'm 40. Now the guy,
Most of your shop
he's
guys
like,
you see are older.
my shop guy's like 70, man. I go, do you ever want to go home? He goes, no. He doesn't want to go home. He, doesn't want to stay. He wants to feel like, hey, man,
Don't
when are
make
you
me
gonna
go.
retire? Man, it's the only way he gets away from his family. Like, no, this is my peaceful way. I mean, like, damn, okay. I mean, he's gonna die freaking in front of his sander and his table.
That's hilarious. Don't make me go home, man. Don't make me work.
He's the one that taught me how to measure, how to cut glass, all the little fine details of glass. He's the one that taught me all that. So I'm pretty. I could do almost anything under the glass family, except for like curtain wall storefront. I know how to do storefront, but not like the big, big old buildings and stuff. I'm more lower guy, but yeah. But he's the one that taught me. He taught me a lot of stuff. Shower doors. He was my little, that person. My mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that guy. Those old guys are going away, man. It's so sad.
Yep. Trying.
It sucks.
Trying to get out of here.
I started out with a Porta-Cable belt sander. And we just wore it out 3 years ago. So that thing is a good. I want how old it was.
You got your money's worth out of that one?
We finally the brass gear in it finally wore out. That was the greatest thing we had. And they don't make them like that anymore.
Hey, I got a shower door question.
Conversation in a different way.
Yay, shower door question.
What's the biggest door? I guess I got an opening. It's 38 wide and it's 84 tall, and they just want a single door. For you guys that are using either FHC or CRL pivots, is that door too big, or have you done doors that big?
For pivots?
Yeah.
I think you could do pivots with that.
How wide?
I know
You could
Bill
probably
Dobbins pivots can handle it.
You would probably want to offset the pivot though. I don't know that you'd want to use the standard offset with that. You might want to move your pivots in. If you could.
You didn't say the thickness of glass, Mike.
Well, I'm quoting them half inch on that.
All right. So what are you, 38 by what?
84.
So 3 by 7, 21. 21 times 7. If I rounded it out, 21 times 7. Trying to do it in my head, but I don't make a mistake. For weight.
Anybody got a phone?
147. What's
147.
150 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do it in ½ inch, but like Brian said, I would offset the pivot hinge. Don't have it out at the end. So are you attaching it to a soffit or a header?
Wall, actually. These ceilings are like 10 feet tall. It's a door with a buttress inline and a 90-degree return. And he wants a he doesn't want a header, and he wants that opening to be wide. He's probably 68 or 9 years old, in case they have to get a wheelchair or something in there.
I'm pretty sure FHC and CR Lawrence is not going to allow it.
Yeah, CR Lawrence pushed back on it. Would you consider a 3/8 door, which is going to be a little less weight, but use like say a pivot for 1/2-inch glass and just pad it out with
Bumpers. Yeah.
Yeah,
You could do it, but is your wall that you're attaching to pretty stable? Don't tell me it's a pocket wall.
no, it's stable. It's studded, it's the whole
Yeah, you could do it.
yeah.
In 3/8, not a problem. Not with our hinges anyhow. I mean, with our hinges, not a problem. I just don't think that the other software is going to allow you to do it.
Yeah, you could step up to like the senior, senior premium, senior Cardiff,
Okay.
and you would be okay.
Will it? Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with
I
that.
think so.
Yeah, I mean, I know.
Go with the hydraulic.
Yeah,
Use that.
Portals has a heavy duty pivot.
Portals.
I didn't think of portals.
I think it handles I think it's rated for a 36-inch wide door. I think it's like 145 pounds. Here, I'll look.
You were a little wider than that, right?
Yeah, I'm at 38.
Yeah.
Should
But
be
you
okay.
know,
38,
like the hydraulic
38, okay.
patch
Yeah.
hinges would put a transom up above if they'll do that.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to it being that wide. There isn't CRL doesn't have anything that can handle that. Not a pivot. No.
The heavy duty wall mount hinges, I think they have some that are rated for that.
They do.
They do.
Yeah.
You could go to a wall mount hinge and
Absolutely.
get away with that size door.
Oh,
You got to use 3 hinges on it or 2?
You could get away with 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
Victorian hinges. Yeah, they can handle like 40 inches wide.
Brian, you said CRL has that one that'll handle a wall mounted hinge that'll handle that big of a door.
Victorian and Plymouth.
Plymouth and Victorian from CR Lawrence. And I think it's a Pasadena and a velour maybe from FHC.
So the
Sounds
velour,
right.
the velour is 145 pounds, and the door width is 40 inches from the velour.
So you're okay there because I figured at 1/2 inch at 147 per pound. So at 3/8, you're fine.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the input. I know he's got a 2x6 turned on its side, so I got plenty of studding in there.
Nice.
There you go.
Gonna need it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Good question.
With those tweeners, and you've all seen them, you don't want to put a 28-inch door with a notched in line. They built that. They're older, and they built it with, the desire to have a wide entry. And we've all faced that. You want it to aesthetically look good. You want it to function like they want it to function. So this at 38, I mean, I've done several 36s, but at 38, the CRL kept, saying no. But anyhow, I appreciate that input. I'll look into that in the morning.
Good. Yeah, they built it without asking you first, all right? They built it and tiled it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
It's how they do it.
I'd put a header on it, just saying. That's just me. Whether they want it or not, I'd put a header on it. If they're elderly, make it super rigid, but that's just my thought.
There you go.
Billy, if you're doing a header, you'd still doing wall mounts?
No, I'd pivot it.
Yeah.
Then I can set the
Okay.
pivot point wherever I want to.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Well, how do you
would-
determine then how far in to push that pivot? I mean, I don't know how you determine that load, how much less of a load you have, if it's out on the end versus what's the, X equals what on that bottom?
I don't have a
I'm gonna try to
calculation
get
for
this.
that.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get them as close to 36 as possible, so they have a clear opening. But I think ADA shower is 30, 33 or something like that around there. So I'm gonna get them in that range and convince them that's the best option.
You could probably use the general max suggested width of what that pivot would handle and offset it so it's kind of around that number.
That's smart. Yeah, that's a smart approach. And then
So from the pivot, so if say this door, the hinge or pivot sides to the right. So if you move that, if you got a 38-inch wide opening and you move that pivot in by to the left, say 2 inches, 2¼ inches, that's going to give you 36 or 37.5 inches, right? Is that or
Yeah.
5.5 inches? Is that what you mean, Brian, by moving it in?
Yeah, if that pivots, if the recommended max door width of that particular pivot is 36, then you would be within that. You would be within that number.
Okay.
Well, you probably want to take into account the fact that they're already accounting for that little bit of an offset to the center of the pivot anyway.
To the center of the cutout, yeah.
So kind of maybe subtract whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? Because if it can handle, like they're saying 34 inches and the hinge is like 4 inches wide, they've already figured for that 2 inches offset to center. But I think you're on the right track for sure.
Yeah, just keep in mind though that the weight of the door is the weight of the door, no matter where you put the bottom hinge.
Exactly.
The weight is pushing down in that, so it still has to be rated accordingly for that.
Yeah.
Or to wear out quickly.
The senior is 145 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you're
Dana Higginbotham's in the chat room. He's saying it's 140 pounds for Victorian.
145.
So you can, it's pretty close though. I'm still talking about the wall mounted heavy duty hinges. But I'm not sure really off the top of my head what like the senior Prima can hold as far as weight. Someone can Google it really quick, I'm sure.
I was thinking 140.
So you guys are talking about getting old. So what's your guys' plan? Once that time hits, are you selling the company, passing it to your employees, to your family? What's the plan?
Well, what I did was I decided to go ahead and merge with GCS Glass. And then so that I can spend these next few years kind of working my way out of being the number one, laborer at my company, So, I mean, it's hard when you're like just a little like mom and pop place without a bunch of employees, just to get out of the mix. Because it's a lot of work going from that to having a whole crew that can just take over and let you leave. So I was just able to find a bigger company that was interested in partnering with me, and kind of let these younger guys come in. This is the theory, right? These younger guys get in there and ramp it up and get a bunch of other people in here, and then I can kind of work my way towards a less labor-intensive position. Then ultimately, I'm only like, I'll be 58 this year, so I'm still a pretty young guy. I could see myself. I could work at the pace I'm working now for another 5 years for sure. So that amount of time, I think we could easily get this Santa Cruz location ramped up to where we're killing it, and they don't even really need me. They want me out of here, Like, Chris, man, stop coming in here. It's like you're just in the way. Old, go home.
Subject, I'm interested in that subject. I'm 61 years old, and I don't have a person who's interested in it. But those of you who have sold a company, or I guess maybe purchased a company, I'd be interested in hearing how you did it. Did you go through a broker if you were a seller, for instance? And to me, that's a sensitive subject because you kind of almost don't want your employees to know what's going on, so they don't all take off. But I'm in the beginning stages of maybe setting this thing up for sale. I'd be curious to hear some experiences, whether you were a buyer or a seller, and how if you were a buyer, how'd you come upon it?
Good question.
Yeah, I can tell you that we sold our first one up in Massachusetts through a broker. So when I was up there, and they were really good. They were based out of Boston. They did a really good job. And we started down here, so we started from scratch, and we didn't buy anything when we started in Florida. But up in Massachusetts, yeah, I definitely used a broker. Did you start your business from scratch in Massachusetts, Bill, or did you buy something? No, started from scratch there too. And the one up there, Mike, is exactly what you're doing. I was the closet made dealer up there. So I was doing closet made, mirrors, shower doors, toilet paper holders, towel bars, numbers on the house, mailboxes, all that stuff, all the specialty items. And then the guy that bought it eventually sold out the closet business to somebody else. He split the company, sold out the closet business to somebody else, and just kept the shower door part of it. And that was after I left. But the broker brought in some, interested party. They did all the vetting. So that was the good part. I didn't have to deal with all of that. So did you use a particular type of broker? In other words, are brokers just a generalist? They want to sell business. They can help you maybe analyze it or value it, and then maintain your privacy. I mean, if I knew then what I knew now, I probably would have done it differently. But for the size of the business, I mean, up there, the one in Massachusetts, I think the best year we had was $1.5 million. And that was back in the year 2000. So I think the broker we used was fine for what we had. But did he help you value it by chance? Yeah, but they do that all the time. And the value is only a book number. It's really what the market's going to pay you, and how important is your business to who's ever buying it. Is it a strategic buyer? Is it an equity buyer where they just want to roll it into a conglomeration of other businesses that they own, and you might be a strategic part of that? Or is it let's say in your company, maybe California Closets, and they want to do shower doors along with their wooden closet shelving, or maybe a company like Budget Blinds that wants to have another line of business tied in with them. Mm-hmm. So it depends on who buys it or who's interested. I went to a lot of seminars about it up there, and it learned a lot because they do a lot of case studies of other businesses that sell and who buys it, and how they come about valuation of it. Mm-hmm. This is my 20th year, and I guess you don't get very many do-overs. You don't get any. And in hindsight, as I look back, I've always been somebody who in the beginning was afraid we weren't going to make it. And then, your head's down and you're working, and I've worked in the business. We talked in this meeting a long time ago about the one book there. The name, I just drew a blank. But one of the things, and looking back, if I had to do it over, I think as an owner, one of the most important things you can do is build an organization and not just be the guy. You can't. Absolutely. Now that at this stage, I'm still heavily involved, and we have created more of an organization, but I'm still, and I don't say this to pat myself on the back, I'm still too down in the weeds. I'm still, estimating, looking at jobs, making decisions. And I think, damn, in 20 years, I needed to be the guy that can walk in on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. This is being too cavalier probably, but say,
how we doing? You know, did you win this job? But that development of that organization, and there's still time to develop people, and it's still an attractive. I think it's an attractive business, but man, if I had to do it over, it'd be how do I remove myself from that down in the weeds thing.
Hardest thing to do, Mike. It's the hardest thing to do
Yeah.
because it's your baby. You started it from scratch. It's your baby.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard to do that because a lot of the customers you have are relationships that you built.
Oh, absolutely.
And you walk away from that and it opens up the door for them to shop to somebody else or for whatever reason, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's the hardest thing to do. I'm just lucky that I had two boys behind me that, you know, if I did take time off, at least they were covering for it.
Yeah.
I'm, like I said, I have a very unfair advantage by having the two boys and a wife that are all involved in the business.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's a great situation to be in.
Yeah, at times. You know, at more times than it's not an advantage.
Yeah.
There's times that it's not, but for more times it is. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a really good book called The E-Myth.
That was it. I couldn't think of the name.
What's it called?
Yeah. It's called
The
the E-Myth, but it's Michael Gerber.
Mhm.
And the new version is called The E-Myth Revisited.
Oh, E-Myth. Yes,
E-Myth.
yes.
Yeah. And it's great. You know, it's just talks about how to set up your business from its inception to run without you. Basically, it's the whole idea is like set up a business that will work without you in it.
Yeah, Mike, your business is more valuable if you set it that way because the people with a lot of money, the real investors that buy business all the time, that's what entices them.
Mhm.
Can they buy it and automatically be that guy that can come in on Tuesdays and say, okay, let's look at these reports and analyze it.
Mhm.
They're not in the weeds. They're not making those decisions. You got to set up that organization.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Like I said, you lift your head up and 20 years goes by
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And-
it. It's like I read that book, but I read it like 15 years after I started my business, you know? So it's like,
right.
You got to read it once a year. You got to read it once a year and just keep going through it. It's almost like drawing out your business plan. Put your 5-year plan in there, set your goals of, you know, every year you got to hit this and adjust it every year. But if you write it down and now you have a vision and a focus, you'll follow it.
Mhm.
It's if you just go day to day to day, you don't really have that. Even the team behind you doesn't know where you're steering the ship. So have that focus and everybody will work towards the same thing.
love it. Yes, indeed.
That's a great topic. You know, lots of times we get focused on just shower doors, but you have to look at it. We're all business people and you're in it. Yeah, shower doors is the means to make the money, but you still have to manage your money. You got to manage your people. You got to manage your organization, your inventory. There's so many other things. It's not just the technical aspects of, will this door fit in here? And that's good for, you know, this group, but we're all business owners. I'm looking at the screen here. We all own our business. And if you want an end game, yes, you got to set it up so that the business can run without you or have a family member and you're setting that family member up to be the next in line. But yeah, you got to do it.
When I first bought my business, I was getting help from this incubator, small business incubator up here. Where we were, and I was trying to gather the paperwork and some financials, and a woman that I was working with asked me one day, she said, what's your, I hadn't even bought it yet, but she said, what's your exit plan? And I've never owned a business before. This is the first one. And I looked at her and I said, my exit plan? I said, I haven't even bought the thing yet. Well, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And she said, oh, in 5 years, you'll be tired of it. You'll want to leave. And you need to consider how you're going to set it up so you can get out of it. And, you know, it went in one ear and out the other. That woman was spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you think about. You get down in the weeds and you don't think about it, but that is I think that's something you absolutely have to have in the back of your mind, whether it's day one and you're getting in, or it's 10 years in or whatever. I do think how attractive, how am I going to make this look attractive to somebody who might be interested in it? So.
Sure. But you got to do that with your own personal money too. I mean, you get out of high school or out of college and you got to think, okay, what's my budget? How am I going to handle my budget? What am I going to do? When do I want to retire? When do I want to do this or buy my next investment? It's always managing that and staying on focus. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Mike, I fell into the exact same thing as you did. I'm in the weeds every day. And I say to myself, the business can't run without me, can't run without me. And I was full of myself. It runs better when I'm not doing it every day. Mm. You give it to the people and they're young and aggressive and you just watch. Mm. I mean, Don and I scratch our head every day. It's like, I can't believe that it's running as well as it's running. And I'm not involved like I used to be.
Yeah.
It's actually better.
Yeah.
Glad you finally got out of the way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I was listening to Michael talk and it reminded me of that saying about like the 2 happiest days in a boat owner's life.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Spot on, Chris.
Yeah.
But I tell you, if I had it to do over, I wouldn't do anything. I mean, I'd stay in this business. I love this business.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I enjoy the heck out of it. I think
it is. It's a great industry with not a lot of competition. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of it. I mean, you look in Yellow Pages or what used to be Yellow Pages, but their painters are a dime a dozen, sheetrockers and carpet guys and flooring guys. They're a dime a dozen. There's very few glass guys.
I agree with you. I wish our industry, and I'm trying to do it here. I feel like we're the stepchild of the trades. You hear about carpenters and electricians and masons and whatnot, but I talked to some young guys. I said, look at the structures as you go through a neighborhood, a city. What do you see everywhere? And it's glass. And whether you want to be a glazer, a commercial glazer, or lean residential, I said there's new buildings, so they need mirrors and shower doors, et cetera. But I don't think our industry has done a good enough job promoting it and showing the value in it. Back here where I am, up in North Central West Virginia, the coal mines have always been paid the big money. Or if you got in power plants, they paid, good money. Well, I had my payroll company do an analysis. I said, can you do a peer review? And there's not a whole lot of glass companies up here. I said, but do a peer review on, say, like, compare my employees' salaries and benefits that I offer to, say, like an HVAC company where, they have vans, they go out, they got to meet with a customer, they got to provide an estimate, as you guys know, then they go in somebody's house and they install it. So things like that. They came back and said we were in the top 1% of, peer industries in North Central West Virginia for what I'm offering my guys and gals who work for me. And I'm not saying that to brag on myself. What I'm saying is I tell these people when I'm looking for workers, I'm like, this isn't some podunk, this is a career, man. You could go work anywhere in the United States if you learn how to do this stuff. A shower door is a shower door is a shower door, if you will, whether it's in West Virginia or Florida or, California. But anyhow, I just feel like the industry hasn't promoted itself as well, because I think it's a great industry. I mean, I get fired up talking about it.
So I talk about it at career days. Fortunately, I've got the time to be able to deal with the schools. But Mike, the reason is because 90% of glass shops are mom and dad shops, mom and pop shops. Yeah. We don't have the time to go promote it. You're running your own business.
Yeah,
right.
Very true.
It's just because of that. And, again, I'm fortunate I got the time to be able to get out. And when I do talk about that to the industry. And that's why I'm doing it, to try and get us more help and continue to grow.
Yeah.
But you're right. When I was a mom and pop, I wouldn't have time for that. So I didn't do a good job promoting it. Not at all.
Yeah.
mean, is there some way that we could band together to have an effect on that?
Oh, yeah, there always is. We could get, I mean, again, it takes time. Like, we just can't say, okay, we're going to form a group, you're going to do it. You got to put the time in. You got to go to the school departments and say, hey, look, you must have a career and educational guidance counselor or somebody that we can get to. And you could set up internships at your company for people who want, and depends how big your company is. Like, we take them on for sales. We take them on for order entry, because we have a whole system set up. You know, they sell it in the field, but then order entry puts everything into the computer system. Then we've got a whole shop. So we've got all, you know, CNC programmers, and it goes all the way down the line. But if I'm looking at just the installation part of the company, installers, guys in the shop that do the prep work. So we'll take interns on for that. And that's how you get them started, see if they like the industry, and then throw them in a truck with a guy for a day or two and see if they like going in the field. Just got to give them a taste of what the job's like. Nobody really has an idea until they get out there and do it.
Right.
But the day flies by, you know, when you're installing, before you know it, the day's gone. And, you know, compare that to working in retail where you go in at 10 and you work till 7 at night and it's just boring. You know, these guys that are security guards at these communities, my God, it's an easy target for you to get. Or servers at some of the fast food restaurants. I guess we talked about that last week or the week before, how Chick-fil-A does such a great job hiring people, you know, throughout the whole industry. They do a great job getting good people. Now, granted, ours has more physical requirements than Chick-fil-A, you know, handling glass, being safe, driving a vehicle.
Right.
But you get the right people and you focus on it, boy, you can grow. You can.
Yeah. You know, and really, I realize whenever I do have somebody helping me, it's like, wow, this is actually pretty easy. You know, when you're doing it by yourself, it's like it's heavy, it's like hard, you know. Then I get another guy on the piece of glass, and I'm like, wow, man, this is like 70. I'm carrying like 75 pounds or something like that. It's like nothing. I could get my wife out here doing this, you know. So as long as you've got, like, you get people working together, it's really not that hard of a job, you know.
No.
So, I mean, it's like a delivery driver has to lift 75 pounds, you know, all day long, right? So it's really not much more than that usually, especially if we're talking about shower doors, you know. It's like some of them get pretty big, but
yeah,
average ones, like, you know, like a 28-inch 3/8 door, 80 inches tall. What is that? Like about 70, 75 pounds, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
and with your gadgets and leverage and everything else, you know, it's really not all that bad.
Exactly. Yeah. Learning how to lift in a smart way and move in a smart way.
Hardest thing is going upstairs, not dinging the walls, you know, watching the corners, all that stuff. That's why I like putting them in teams of 2. You got a guy on each end of the glass or holding the corners. You know, less chance of damage, less chance of injury.
That is it. I mean, that's the number one thing. It's like there's a lot of stuff you can do solo, and I've, you know, of course, that's been like a big part of like my whole career. But I always say, I mean, I never deny the fact that, like, I damage more stuff, you know, by myself. There's just no way around it. I mean, you're going to make more mistakes because you don't have somebody checking your math all the time. You don't have somebody, you know, when you got a partner, you know, you're always watching each other, you know. So chip more glass, you know, break more things, order things wrong, you know. So I mean, the amount of money you make up on labor, you kind of lose in breakage, it seems like.
Sometimes
it's about a wash, you know.
I'm more worried about somebody hurting their back. You know, just lifting it awkwardly, trying to pitch it in a tight bathroom and not hit the toilet or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You know, Chris, to your theme, go, again, doing things. There's one thing about working by yourself, but like, trying to be all things. That's another thing I learned the hard way too. And developing standards and processes and kind of SOPs, if you will, for your business. Again, I didn't do any of that. I'm talking now, but I'm scrambling like hell to have implemented those over the last couple of years. But I just recently hired a designer. We do closets, as I mentioned before, but she's a designer, but I'm teaching her the shower door programs too. And the beauty of new people, when it was just me trying to go out and measure 10 of them a day, come back and design them, you do miss things. This girl is this woman, I should say. You want to talk about attention to detail. She has picked up, that extra set of eyes. And then I have a scheduler. She sees things. It has made us a better company because I'm not trying to do everything. It has made us less mistakes when I'm not making every decision. So your point is well taken. I mean, those other sets of eyes and detail, people who dot the I's and cross the T's has saved me a hell of a lot of money in the last 2 years.
Absolutely. Mike, a good exercise to look at is go back, if you've got your accounting on computer, look at the gross revenue did 3 years ago. And then, if you're running QuickBooks, just set the date. So let's say year to date to August 1st, or let's say to July 1st, year to date. And let's use $1 million as your revenue. And then go down to your bottom line and take a look at what your net profit is after all of your expenses, right? How much did you actually make? Then forward it to this year. Go to the same date and do the same thing and see if your net profit is higher. That means your efficiencies are higher. You're more efficient, right?
Yeah. I have done some of those analysis. And what's interesting, 3 years ago, I think I had 18 employees. I'm down to 11. We're more profitable, more streamlined. We cut a lot of fat out of it. I mean, we got a ways to go, but I have noticed when to your point, when I do analyze those periods, equal periods from previous years. Yeah. Cause I think over the last couple of years, I've really been trying to clean this up with the vision that one day I'd like to sell this thing and clean it up. Where can we get rid of stuff? So no, I appreciate that.
Mike, the other thing that's really important if you're starting to think about that is not how much you sell it for, but it's how much you keep at the end. So be prepared what you're going to do with that money to watch your tax liability. There are a lot of advisors out there that can help you put it in the most tax advantaged ways, whether you set up a trust, a foundation, legal ways to help protect you. Those are the things that you really got to be analyzing. And then personally, your own personal will for your family should get that in order also. It's tough to say, when you start hitting 50s, you got to have it because it's a mess. If you own a house and a business, it can be a real mess.
I don't mean to dominate the conversation, but I'll just say this because I know we're running on 20 minutes past 9 here, but I think this conversation for anybody who is thinking maybe buying or selling is a conversation about how do you structure certain deals. I did have one couple approach me 2 years ago with an interest in purchasing it, and they said, well, can we buy 50%, buy in and then work for a while and then buy out? And I'd love to hear some perspective on from you all, like how were deals structured? I don't know enough about that to comment, but I'd sure as heck like to hear, some of the folks who've been through that.
Well, the beauty of business is you structure it any way you want. That's the beauty. And if you don't like it, you walk away from it. It's that simple. It's not like selling a residential house where you come up with a listing price. And if somebody asks you that, then you need to sell it or say, no, I'm not going to do it. But business is different. I mean, if 50% of it takes all the pressure off of you, you know, and you want to do a workout, you say, okay, I'll work for 5 years at this much money. And then when that's done, the business hopefully will continue to grow and it's going to be worth more. They call that getting a second bite of the apple. Now you sell the older half and you're probably going to make more than what you did on the first half. And you should, because the business should be growing. But it depends who you sell it to. So you have to analyze, I mean, are you selling to somebody that's going to grow the business? Or are they just going to keep it the way it is? Maybe they're buying it for a tax write-off. Maybe they have to dump money and they're going to put it into a business for a while. So you have to make sure and vet who's buying it from you. But the most important thing is how much you're going to have after all is said and done. You know, you got to look at the tax ramifications. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah, other than Bill, I mean, is there anybody here who has actually bought a business or has bought the business that you're in? Or is everybody else just started from scratch? Or like ended up with a family kind of a business thing? Huh?
I think we're all founders. Pretty much everybody's a founder, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Billy came from a family business, right? Because that's a 50, 60-year-old business or more. Other than that, I think we're all founders.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's like I don't know what it's like, you know, to buy into a business.
Let me tell you though, if anyone gets into that situation, reach out to me. I've learned a lot and I've talked to a lot of people. I'm on the local college's advisory board for the School of Entrepreneurship. And there's a lot of guys that have been retired that also sit on that board. So I get some really good advice from guys that have gone through this. And there's guys that have sold 50 businesses. You know, they buy and sell businesses. They're like car brokers. They'll buy a business and then turn around and resell it. So they know what to look for. So,
hey, Bill,
yeah.
Would you dissuade or would you advise somebody who wanted to sell their business to maybe make a list of companies that you'd maybe reach out to and let them know that, hey, you're interested in selling your business? You know, and I kind of made a succession plan that, okay, in the event of my death, I wanted Christina to know what she could do if she didn't want to keep this thing going. And, you know, even our competition could be, we have one fabricator installer in town. That's the only fabricator installer that we have. Everybody else is just an installer or, you know, fabrication only. And I thought, you know, this company, they don't have, kind of like what you said, have a name that associates your business with what you do, like shower doors. They don't have that name. And to me, that would be valuable to a company like that. They've got deep pockets because they've got a hell of a fabrication, you know, but there's also a bunch of other companies out there that I would think could be a good potential buyers. But then if you get the word out like that, then all of a sudden, maybe through the rumor mill, people are going to start saying, oh, they're going out of business or they're backstabbing you. And so what is your opinion on that? Is it better to have a broker so everything is silent in the background, or would you make it known that, hey, you got, you know, an interest in selling?
You know, every different company has a different take on it because I don't know how many employees you have, Brad, but sometimes if you put it out there, the employees may want to buy the business, and that would be a good transition. You know, I always try and bring employees up through the business and keep them involved. Now, I know a lot of guys would hide that from employees, like, I'm just going to sell it, and when it's done, we'll talk about it. But I like to get them involved. I like to see if they want to get some ownership together and they can go out and get money and take it over. It's a good way of doing it. It's nice and clean. But if you only have one or two and you don't think that they're going to fit the mold so they can be owners. And you could have a talk with them. Say, look, I want to try and get a buyer that, wants to continue to grow and give you an opportunity to grow here in this business. And I'm letting you know, they'll appreciate that. But it's a great idea to have a list. So even if you went to a broker, you're going to give them a list, but the broker is going to open it up. The person that buys your business may have absolutely nothing to do with shower doors. They may want to bring that into, like I said, it could be a blind company or a California Closets or Lowe's may want to buy your business. It's just could be out of nowhere. That's why a broker is to that. And a lot of the big bankers, I don't know who you use for a bank. Don't be afraid to talk to your personal banker about it, your business banker. Usually they have a whole team at the bank and they know all the industries out there. Those are also good starting points.
Okay.
Your bank, you should have a really good relationship with your bank. Everybody should. And you can share that to them. Say, hey, if I was to sell it, what do you think I should do? And they'll give you some really good opinions. Because don't forget, they want you to sell for a lot of money because they want to do something with your money. They want you to invest it with the bank or whatever you're going to do. And they'll
Well,
help.
I guess then the answer is don't worry about the rumor mill and,
No, don't worry about it. I worried about it. I was Mr. Shower Door with Tom, and Tom decided not to renew anybody's license, and we all panicked that we had to change our name from Mr. Shower Door. And we thought it was a really big deal. And to me, it still is a big deal, but it was seamless. The average person did not even recognize the difference that changed from Mr. to mine. It just didn't. And we lost a lot of nights sleep over it. We really did.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got a good thing. I'll tell you a really quick story. We got about 3 minutes. One of the seminars I went to, and it's interesting. There was a company, and you probably all recognize this company. It's called Duraflame. They're the pre-made logs that they use for heating. They wanted to sell their business. It was a family business, and they went out and they tried to get people to buy it. Now, you know that Duraflame has a very large retail segment to it. And to get space in retail stores on the shelves, it's very, very valuable. Very valuable. But they were a seasonal item. So it was difficult for somebody to buy it and then, run your business on a season. And they didn't know who to sell to. And they got a broker. They ended up selling to a company that also was a seasonal company in the off seasons. So you figure Duraflame is good for the winter, right? So who would use that same shelf space for the summer? Ended up selling their business to Kingsford, which was charcoal briquettes. And it was brilliant. They already had distribution, and all they did was the briquettes went in that same shelf space when the Duraflame logs went out.
Great.
So you just never know who's going to buy it. It was a perfect tie-in.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I guess the point is, Brad, you could be getting this best spreadsheet you could ever put together, and you'll probably end up finding a buyer that's got nothing to do with your spreadsheet because they may like your company name. They may like your website. They may like something about that you have that they want.
You just want your shelf space.
Yeah, in the retail market, that's what it was. They want the shelf space.
Yeah, I just personally think that being, as open and out there as possible is always a good decision. I mean, it's almost always a good decision. Anything that I've ever done, I've tried to be not very secretive or close to the vest with my decisions. I think that letting people know what you're doing, especially the people in your own organization, is a smart idea, like Bill was talking about. You don't really want your employees to find out through some other avenue, that you're planning, or you're thinking about doing something like that, in my opinion. Now, I know there's different philosophies about this, and not that, another idea is wrong. I just, I kind of tend to side with like Bill's outlook on this, and I know sometimes like decisions I'm making, there are other people involved. And those are the only situations where I'm like more quiet about what I'm doing, because I don't want to reveal anybody else's business, because that's their business. And sometimes you're partnering with people and you want to be sensitive to that. So that's important, But yeah, put it out there, let people know what's going on. I mean, it's like, well, you're doing good stuff. You got nothing to hide, put it out there. And because you never know when word gets out, that it may be the most unexpected thing, like Bill's talking about, that works out for you,
Mhm.
All right. Well, anything else before we close? I'd say that was pretty good talk.
It was a good
Yeah.
talk.
Thank you. I appreciate all the info.
Awesome. Appreciate the questions. Thanks everybody for participating. And we'll see you again next Wednesday. Okay.